27th of May, and we're focused on a Digital World Town Hall meeting. We do have a live audience with us, and we will jump into an agenda just really fast. So for those that are not here or been here before, we basically focus on what's happened in the last week, in this case 2, and then general Q&A. So feel free to join in. For those of you that have the invite, it's only a small group of folks, but we're grateful for those that show up and ask questions so all of the other listeners can actually come up to speed. Also grateful for those that are on here, both Wally and Adam and Elle and John, and thank you for your time and your attendance and supporting. And then as a reminder, this is a private membership association. Some of the things we'll talk about may be forward-looking items. And for those that are not aware, we basically focus on how big tech and other sources, whether it's medium, but really secret combinations. Some folks are in oil, some folks are in pharma, some folks are in banking, but ultimately, in the end, it's going to be secret combinations that are in big tech that actually go in and take over governments and the monetary systems that are associated with them, whether it's through project finance or other things, but then end up ultimately building systems that control humanity instead of freeing humanity with technology. Like we all had this promise of an internet that would actually provide freedom of speech. Well, I think in many cases it's done just the opposite. It's been a tool to actually weaponize against the people, to silence people. And ultimately, AI is something that can actually help that to come to the top, but we're also seeing elements that is potentially doing that as well. And the solution is ultimately decentralization. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the advancements this last week that has happened, not only with some of the things that the digital world is focused on and accomplishing, but also some of the clear companies. And then also another organization or entity that we'll talk a little bit about called the Deal Flow Show. And the Deal Flow Show is actually a reality show that we'll talk specifically about. This last week was the first of 17 episodes that we actually went live with. And you can basically see it within this environment. So today we talk about how the digital world and the physical worlds come together through utilizing decentralization, enabling sustainability. So it really comes down to decentralized ID with derived keys and digital payments. The things that we're focused on, which we'll talk about in most of these topics, are exchanges, phones, homes, autos, and the community. So first off, this last week, actually the week prior, it was a crazy full week. Was in Miami, and we were actually shooting the Deal Flow Show, which is the first episode of the Deal Flow Show, which is this website, which is now live at the dealflow.app. There's also going to be a URL.show as well, but there's some fun things that are actually being built there. So you basically download an app, just a wallet that does the watching and the voting and then the investing. And literally, it's not just for judges, but it's also for the world. And it breaks the world into accredited or non-accredited type folks. And the non-accredited folks, basically, we teach them how to become accredited by, well, in some cases, understanding this digital divide, this transfer of wealth that we're all in right now, and how they can actually basically purchase digital assets or receipts or gold. And so in many cases, as a matter of fact, the 7th state has been approved. For those that are actually seeing my screen here, my video feed, these are actually the 7th state's dollars that are gold dollars, and the 7th state is Florida, which is where we actually shot this Deal Flow Show from. And so what we do is we teach folks how they can actually get these types of gold environments. So you basically buy gold, whether they're dollar form, and then you can get a digital receipt for it and then work within the digital world. And the Deal Flow Show, again, is a reality show. It's in multiple different parts of the world. The one we just shot was Miami. Next, it will be Hamptons, Monaco, Singapore, Dubai, and Hong Kong. So we welcome you to kind of join and follow along. It was really done well. The crew that actually shoots this is the same crew that does, what is it? Botched. It's like a cooking show. Butch. Maybe somebody can help me there. But they also do the dating one. What's the dating one? I should know this. I don't watch TV. That's my problem.
Mike, the cooking show is Chopped.
Chopped. Thank you. Not Botched, but Chopped. And the other one, not The Apprentice. I just can't remember all these shows.
Bachelor, The
Yeah,
Bachelorette.
Bachelor. So thank you. I'm glad that you guys know what's going on. So Bachelor and Chopped and the other one that's the
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank. Thank you. I'm glad that you guys know what's going on. So Shark Tank, Chopped, and The Bachelor is the same that this crew basically shoots. Wonderful folks. It was really, a great opportunity to meet 6 different companies that are solid companies. And we actually had, I won't tell you who the winner is because you're going to have to actually watch it and go through all of it. But there were 6 companies. $1 million was awarded, 500,000 was awarded, and 250,000 was awarded. So you'll have to kind of join the fun and watch online to actually see who was involved. So some other fun stuff. There's some additional things that talk about, what is the difference between accredited, non-accredited? How does that process actually work? And how does it all fit together? Again, this is a digital world-based environment where the system behind the digital world, these different companies can actually get a vote, and then they can actually have the investment tied directly from an accredited investor. So these were the first 6 deals. And then you'll see other deals as more. So literally 17 different series, 6 deals per series. And then there'll be 4 to 5 judges. And then the audience will be a judge. And then AI will be a judge. So you'll have AI, the general audience, which is everyone in the world that wants to pull down and actually vote. And then the actual judges. So it's a new type of reality show. And thank you all for who've actually watched these other reality shows. Obviously, I don't watch TV. So that's basically done. The other thing that we had an opportunity to get involved with was really some key folks that I believe may have a solid impact for the future. And we're exploring some of those. But there were 3 particular individuals that I had an opportunity to meet with. And this gentleman, which I won't be specific on his name, but he's a wonderful man and he's doing some amazing things. And when I heard about them, I was like, we have way too much in common and we should be building together. So we're exploring potentials of helping that to become a reality. And, if it's something that is supposed to be, it's more than just helping it. The power of intention can do some amazing things. So I hope that there's an opportunity there, but and I hope that I have the opportunity to share with you all a little bit more about that. There's also 2 other individuals that, from Brock Pierce to Tim Draper. These guys have been in the industry similar time frames as what the digital world has been and Clear Companies have been, but really just good people that were there. One of the things I want to talk about is an exchange, a brand new exchange. And they're actually going to come in different forms, but this is a decentralized exchange from the digital world. I know that a lot of you have said, hey, I want to be involved in that. I want to get in, whether it's different assets. And you as individuals everyone can create assets that can then actually go onto the exchange, have a reputation and other values that can actually tie to it. And the value of it is it's truly decentralized. The individuals own the keys, the assets, and then there'll be on-ramps and off-ramps, and all of this ties together. When I say all of this, so one of the things that is coming today, or we're working on, is the ability to integrate real dollars that are gold-based. So instead of having paper dollars like these, you literally have real gold that actually has a value to it if you were to melt it down. This, if you melt it down, it just burns up, right? So the value is really cash-based in gold that then ties to these exchange-based assets that everyone can be a part of in the world. And what I'm going to do is spend a little bit of time going through this and turning on some lights as to why this is valuable. Because not only did we go live with the decentralized exchange within the digital world this last week, but we also saw something over the last couple of weeks that's been very concerning. And I'm going to play a video real quick so you can understand what that was. So when he says peer-to-peer, that's basically what the digital world has built within this exchange. So this exchange, which is the first decentralized exchange that's built in the digital world, and before the end of the year, there's actually going to be 4 different exchanges. One will be focused on currencies, one will be focused on commodities, one will be focused on crypto, which was actually going to be wrapped within this environment. And then there's another element that will be tied to rewards. Rewards are actually going to tie to some vendor partners. Think about American Express, Delta, Marriott, etc. They basically have reward points, but they're not cryptographically based, but they actually trade them for value, US dollars. So imagine a digital US dollar that can actually tie to reward, or imagine a digital US dollar, a decentralized environment that you have Bitcoin that actually is an amazing asset, but it's slow and it's not private. But in the digital world, you can actually get a fast and private version of Bitcoin that represents the same value exchange that ties to Bitcoin. So it's not just, and this will actually pair with the environments. You'll be able to procure these assets. If people are saying, you know what, I've never really gotten into Bitcoin, you can actually buy a decentralized version of Bitcoin that actually is represented and proven that it's still on the different BTC network or Bitcoin-based network, but you can buy it with this environment. We'll show you how. It's a really simple, easy process. So this is an example of one asset that can actually be exchanged. You can also swap assets, one for one within an actual system. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to log in. I'll actually log in with this device here and kind of show you how it actually works. So again, everything runs off of 5-factor authentication. Notice on this particular device, so I run a couple different devices, and depending on the actual version of the Life app that I use, it'll actually pop up a different wallet, but the wallets all stay consistent. So I know that I've actually got different assets throughout. So you can see within this environment, there are different assets. And then if I want to go and exchange those assets, notice how they actually load up within a particular environment. So you can actually put different buy sell orders in, or you can just exchange directly. What I think is really unique, I'll go ahead and log out of that account. So you notice that this account here is actually real. So I'll actually go ahead and log out of this particular account and then load up one. Let's see here. I should just refresh this guy. So I'll go ahead and log in here. If I can get in, and you'll see a limited amount of assets that actually come in. So you'll notice that this environment actually has a limited amount, but it's watching a couple others. Instead of using the actual phone app to actually see certain assets, you can actually come in and say, well, I want to go ahead and watch, let's say, let's go ahead and find one that actually has some value and oomph to it. Let's say this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and just scan it. And we weren't watching it or seeing it, or I couldn't actually transfer with it before. But through this process, I can actually, did I not do that? I can actually do it here. And for those of you that are on Apple, it's seamless. It's all integrated. For those of you that are on Android or Clear, there's 2 different applications, ClearLife and ClearPay. One of the requirements we're working on right now is the consolidation of those 2. So it's in the mind, you don't have to remember anything. Also, if you're on an Apple device and you forget to actually use your ClearLife scanner and you're working with just a camera on Apple, because that's what they're used to, it'll basically tell you to actually use the app. So a couple different user experiences, but now you can see that Mexican peso, that's a decentralized Mexican peso, can actually be seen here. And then you can go ahead and exchange those assets within your environment. If you want to pull in other assets, you can do so and actually see other ones as well. So we're grateful for the team members that have been behind this, that are working hard to really make it so that it's not just currencies, equities, commodities, crypto, but also rewards, but really that it solves a lot of the issues that these centralized exchanges are seeing. Kraken, Binance, Coinbase, all of them will go through the same type of reality that we just saw with that environment where, literally information for the individual is taken. Now, if you notice, I'm logged in, but the world doesn't necessarily know or link it to me as an individual. So what that means is, let's say that someone actually comes in to one of the jurisdictions within the digital world, and they want to see whether it's companies and their reputation. And by the way, you can view lots of them here, or you can actually see assets, or we're going to focus on individuals. So these are actually individuals within the digital world, or within, this is actually in a different jurisdiction, but it's all the same. It's all the same ecosystems. But you can see lots of different folks. But notice, we don't necessarily know their full identity. To do it, you actually have to request the ability to actually know who they are. Why is this valuable and important? Just like what happened with Coinbase, where a support rep was basically bribed to get information about the individual, social security numbers, addresses, names. They also know routing numbers payment numbers. I mean, it's just, the key is, how does the individual own their own identity instead of giving it away to the world? And this is how they can own it. Remember, we talked about 3 different things where they take your name, so your identity, an ID. They take your transactions, maybe it's around payments and the payment system. For those that are not aware, the actual same system, and I'll go through and show you here, for those that are not aware, the same system that is actually used within the airports for Real ID in America, which went live this month. So today is the 27th. That actually went live 20 days ago. So this Real ID system is literally owned by, or managed by, or created by this company here out of France. And if you notice, they don't just do ID, they do payments. This is their home screen. Haven't modified it or navigated anywhere. So you link identity with payments, and then what happens? And I've been saying this for years. And you know what came out just a couple days ago? This is 5 days ago on May 22nd. So literally, they couldn't even wait 20 days, so to speak. May 22nd, this Stargate is now being adopted in the United Arab Emirates. For those of you that are not aware, this was an environment that we started working on literally, I don't even know, 8 years ago, long time ago. So what this is saying, I'm actually going to read this to you, and then we'll talk about it.
Introducing Stargate UAE. Our first open AI for countries partnership expands global AI infrastructure and access in coordination with the U.S. government. We're launching Stargate UAE, the first international deployment of Stargate, OpenAI's AI infrastructure platform. Stargate represents our long-term vision for building frontier-scale compute capacity around the world in service of safe, secure, and broadly beneficial AGI. This is also the first partnership under OpenAI for countries, our new global initiative to help interested governments build sovereign AI capability in coordination with the U.S. government, rooted in democratic values, open markets, and trusted partnerships. The agreement, which includes our partners G42, Oracle, NVIDIA, Cisco, and SoftBank, was developed in close coordination with the U.S. government, and we greatly appreciate President Trump for his support in making it possible. The new partnership includes dual investments, a 1 GW Stargate UAE cluster in Abu Dhabi with 200 megawatts expected to go live in 2026. UAE investment into U.S. Stargate infrastructure, building on the U.S. UAE AI acceleration partnership, opens in a new window, announced during President Trump's visit last week. This initiative builds on the unprecedented investment in America's AI infrastructure we announced in January when we launched Stargate, and reinforces OpenAI's commitment to strengthening U.S. infrastructure while helping allies gain access to transformative AI responsibly and securely. Opens in a new window, and it follows the United Arab Emirates' commitment earlier this year to invest $1.4 trillion in the U.S., which will support job creation, drive economic growth, and help America maintain its technological leadership. The new partnership will support the UAE in leveraging OpenAI's tools across critical sectors like government, energy, healthcare, education, and transportation to help accelerate innovation and economic growth while creating lasting benefits for its people. Under the partnership, the UAE will become the first country in the world to enable ChatGPT nationwide, giving people across the country the ability to access OpenAI's technology. Stargate UAE has the potential to provide AI infrastructure and compute capacity within a 2,000-mile radius, reaching up to half the world's population. We hope this will be the first of many OpenAI for countries collaborations, and we've already been engaging with other countries around the world that are interested in building their own Stargates. As we previously announced, in the initial phase of OpenAI for countries, we aim to pursue 10 partnerships across key countries and regions, laying the foundation for a globally distributed, democratically powered AI network. Starting next week, OpenAI Chief Strategy Officer Jason Kwon will kick off an OpenAI for Countries roadshow across Asia Pacific, meeting with governments and potential private sector partners to discuss opportunities to build out infrastructure and deliver AI services to people in their communities. We look forward to continuing to work with governments and partners who share this vision.
So for those of you that may be tuning in for the first time, we've actually already been down a lot of these roads. So not only spent a lot of time within the Middle East, but also in the Pacific. Actually went with 28 different countries within the Pacific, which basically is over 250 or 25,000 different island environments and 40 billion acres of land and ocean. And out of that, we were able to work with these countries initially. There's also a couple other ones that are not added to this list. There's actually 2 other ones, and the Mexican environment is actually one of them. But the difference between Stargate and what we're talking about here is around true decentralization. In my opinion, one of the things that's specifically this organization is actually going to do, as it relates not only to countries but to Chat or OpenAI, is tied to basically linking up people. So again, we talked about, you take the identity, you take the payments, and then you link that together with artificial intelligence to link the people together. And what you have is a form of slavery potential. I'm not saying that that's going to be what is going to happen. And I hope that it doesn't. But what the digital world represents is an alternative to any of these types of systems that could potentially be rolled out. Now, today, they're not particularly saying that they're actually going to operate governments. But what I see in the future, and I'd love to see everyone else's perspective on this or hear it, is I believe that there's going to be forms of control, whether it's judicial systems / courts, whether it's permits or licenses or registrations. And the goal is, that's great. Like, let the individuals actually control all that. But when you link all of that to payments and other things behind the scenes, literally, if you don't do things a certain way, your livelihood, your ability to actually operate, even if you do a job and you get value for it, it could go away. So we're watching this heavily. And in my opinion, the realities that are here, as a matter of fact, we should probably, when they talk about this right here,
Provide customized ChatGPT to citizens. This will help deliver improved healthcare and education, more efficient public services, and more. This will be AI of, by, and for the needs of each particular country, localized in their language and for their culture, and respecting future global standards.
So what do you think that more efficient public services is? When they actually link the healthcare, they're going to tie it into really the identity. And what they were talking about initially when they launched this, and I think they've watered it down, is basically coming up with a vaccine that solves cancer. That was the initial announcement. I don't know if you remember, with Oracle Larry guy, that basically talked about with Trump, talking about how this cancer preventing vaccine will be developed for each individual as a byproduct of this. So we need to really keep an eye out on these types of things: education, knowledge, public services, healthcare. So let's just, this is rolling out right in front of our eyes. This is 2025. We've talked about this literally for over a decade, and here it is. The goal would be, how can we actually have parallel systems that not only fund organizations, but drive awareness around how the system works? How can you create a decentralized identity, create a decentralized business, and actually create a decentralized capitalization structure and get paid to be able to do certain things, whether it's for a product or service, or it's equity within a business? Then how can you actually exchange that peer to peer? And not only that, but how can you do it in such a way where you have true world value, such as, some folks would look at gold and those types of things as some of the value. There's other things of value. I mean, currencies, equities, and commodities. The currencies is only one of them. Commodity in today's world, oil, fuels, those types of things are a whole nother element. So these are all topics that we've been focused on heavily. If you've got thoughts, comments, feedback, please feel free to review any of those now. We'll go to our live audience. We're grateful for those that are here. It looks like everybody's on mute, but if there's anything that you'd like to bring up, or observations, or maybe something that you're seeing in the world, feel free to collaborate and communicate here. We'll go ahead and give you guys the mic.
So, hi, Michael.
Hi.
I would love for you to put the link to that Coinbase thing, because my account was hacked.
Okay.
I just got a message today saying Ledger API was connected to your Coinbase. If this was not you, cancel by calling Coinbase at blah, blah, blah. When I go on the Coinbase website, it gave me a completely different number. So I'm trying to cancel my account. Luckily, I have nothing in that account, or very little, a few dollars maybe. But yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm part of the lucky ones, I guess.
that's actually exactly how they went after people, so that you were actually one of the victims of it. And it's not just Coinbase, it's any centralized system. And that's why even people on this call, we all work together to build companies that basically built services and products that centrally managed other companies, title companies, manufacturing companies, healthcare companies, even Bayer Pharmaceutical, and all the healthcare transactions that were paid for in insurance in Utah and a couple other environments. All 50 states, 29 countries, we centrally manage these customers, tons and tons of customers and companies, and only to realize, almost a decade into building it, this is not wise. Some people call it a honeypot. We're putting all their data, and we were wise in how we would back up, because we were backing up every single PC, every single piece of data from every user every day. And so when we would back those up, they would be encrypted as they traveled, and they would be encrypted when they're centralized. But if that data was actually unencrypted, or the drives were physically taken, the question is, how could that actually happen? And what you see within the digital world is everything that happens, it operates off of derived keys. So when you want to go start a business, you actually have to scan something to create an identity that can prove that you are who you are, and you can prove it through managing the business. But the world doesn't see that. And when you layer AI on the current centralized systems, and this is what people just don't understand, and I think the lights will go on as we go down further down the road, but when you use a blockchain or ledger-based system, everything that you do is actually transparent. Now, in some ways, people think, well, just criminals use those things. Well, no, stupid criminals would use them, but really they're going to force everyone in humanity to use them. For instance, when we talk about this actual identity system that's rolling out right here, this system actually has a cryptographic chain behind it. The problem is it's centrally managed, along with what we all use in our browsers, HTTPS. The hypertext protocol that has the SSL cert on it is actually using the same type of cryptography, which is a private key and a public key, and then derived keys based upon that. But for instance, if you want to go and deliver websites within China, the government mandates that the SSL cert can be accessed by the government. Now, I'm not saying that privacy shouldn't be violated, but it can be violated if there's a crime that's been committed, but due process needs to be able to be realized. And these types of systems, there is no system to it. A request from a government can literally have an individual's human rights of privacy and the right to transact be violated without the individual knowing it. And the companies that they're requesting it of, I would say this organization, IDEMA, or Facebook, or Microsoft, or Google, all of them are in the same camps where these FISA requests go in and basically request it out. So other thoughts or comments, feedback?
So yeah, so I saw that whole not interview, but whatever, with Trump and Larry. God, his name escapes me now, and Sam Altman and all that. And they were talking about customizing vaccines for people and how this was going to be just unbelievable. And so I don't trust any of them. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I just don't trust any of them. I'm starting to wonder about Trump, and is he part of this, or does he just not understand it fully? Or I don't know what to think. But these are really scary things that they're coming up with, and even all the AI stuff that's going on now. The digital world, we're still going to need, so let's say I get a pension. Well, the pension comes from the government. And if the government gets wind of what you're doing, are they going to allow me to transfer my money into the digital world? Are we going to be forced to stay in the centralized world?
And that's where we tie in basically making a purchase. when you purchase, and that's why what we're doing with, as crazy as this sounds, with this deal flow, when an organization says, hey, we really like this entity and we want to go ahead and invest in it or buy a portion of it, they can go ahead and do it, but they must be an accredited investor. If they're not accredited investor, like majority of the population, what do? They end up buying gold and getting a digital receipt for it. Now, in that transaction process, the ability for an individual to be able to own something that is supposedly the original type of currency within most modern societies and supposedly backed by most, whether you're looking at China, Russia, Brazil, Europe, all of them basically focus on a standard. Do they have the backing for the standard? That's to be, debated. But in the end, that's exactly what we're talking about. For instance, programmable money in America, they say, well, if you don't do this, then you don't get this. Or if you don't spend this in this way, then you lose this. Or if you don't believe this or do a certain thing, let's just hypothetically say you choose not to get vaccinated, and therefore the consequence is your money doesn't work in a certain area, or you can't travel to somewhere and spend something. Or worse off, you can't actually buy certain things. Like, let's say Amazon today.
Groceries.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
groceries, for instance.
I mean, really, that's the way that they get humanity, is they actually get humanity based upon our tummies. Because every 4 hours, we usually get hungry, and we will actually do some crazy things just to get rid of that hunger. Now, I mean, you saw it already with COVID. Could you go to Costco? Were there certain stores you just couldn't get into, or they forced them to shut down?
Oh yeah, we could go anywhere. Yeah.
Did you have to have, and here in America, they left open some of the nightclubs as well as the bars, as well as the stores that sold alcohol, but they shut down a lot of other things. They talk about critical services. All I'm saying is what we saw with COVID was a very, very small piece of what could be coming with programmable money that uses a centralized system behind it, because technology can either set us free or it can enslave us. And so the goal of the digital world is really to build a facility and infrastructure where organizations like this Deal Flow can actually be a part of the digital world and use the systems, like how a person gets an identity or creates a digital company or creates a digital asset or can pay in or receive in a digital asset. So a lot of this is really to be, realized in the future. But along the way, there's some great people. By the way, this is a DJ that was brought in from Brazil. I don't know if any of you guys notice. I don't really track with a lot of these folks, but this was one of the contestants. A lot of just really, really good people. This is our dear, I don't know if you remember Gary, that actually makes these gold backs. He was actually down at this event. Wonderful fun. He had so much fun. I love taking photos of just him having a lot of fun. But this DJ is a pretty slick. His name is Alok, and if you haven't looked him up, I didn't know about him, and I watched the first song, and I actually cried. It was really a beautiful, beautiful song. I'll go ahead and play it at the end, and we'll wrap up with it. But he was actually a judge with a lot of other people. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. So what is your role with the Deal Flow show?
So I actually can't tell you, because once you watch, you got to watch the show. So the goal is, whether it airs on Netflix or something like it, because the crew that shot this was just amazing, phenomenally amazing, just really, really well done. These are a lot of the contestants that were there, but you'll have to tune in. You'll have to watch it and just.
But we can't watch it till September?
I don't know when it's going to show. I just,
Okay.
I personally don't really. I can kind of walk you through who's who and those types of things, but
you're teasing us, Michael. You're really teasing us.
Like
these, not right.
Like this dude, the crew is just, and the directors. I had no idea what goes into putting these types of things together, but they really did an amazing job. This is Paul Isom. The stuff that he's tapped into is absolutely from a creator. She's built a wonderful company. these are the crew that actually shot it. And what's funny is I think that the people that were actually filming it understood at least our value prop better than the digital. They understood the digital world and the clear phones. They understood it better than the judges did, which was awesome. Like
Wow.
really, really, really awesome. So I urge you. This was actually the host. She'll be one of the consistent things throughout all the different shows. And you know, it was just a wonderful time, and it's live now. So what we talked about, you know, a couple weeks ago, it's actually done. It's actually, you know, they're in the post-production process today, and I'm grateful for this guy coming down. So you'll start seeing, you know, creating a digital identity, creating a digital business, creating a digital asset, then getting funded for that digital asset, and then how the world works within currency systems, kind of like what you're seeing here with Gary, how these currency systems from a physical currency and then a digital currency. Because the problem with these, you know what the issue is? It's not that they rub off or you can't put them in your wallet or people won't accept them. It's that we can't make them fast enough. So these things can actually run a monetary system. They can back a monetary system, but you've got to be able to make enough of these. And that's where a lot of these things come in. So whether it's coins or bills, the ability to have gold-backed assets that has a digital receipt can actually create a new monetary system. Now, the question is, will the policies basically work within that environment? So once again, grateful for Gary and just his attendance and all those that helped. You know, the gal in the middle, really, this wouldn't have happened without her. I won't name names until it's right, but she was literally ready to have a baby down there, and just some amazing folks that came together. And this was actually it right here. So we had 4 or 5 cameras. This is a good example of one of the shots, but this was right before one of the fun scenes. But you know, so pay attention to it and you'll see it. They're going to be shot in different parts of the world, but really like high-end kind of ritzy pritzy type stuff. And you know, I personally don't really plug into that Hollywood thing, but you can kind of see here where folks can actually come in and actually get involved and then want to actually vote. So maybe they see it a certain way, and people are going to start learning how the voting process actually works and how the ability to actually have a voice. So for instance here, how that will actually also have transparency to the rest of the world. So you can see this is the person that actually voted for that. And then you'll actually be able to see a lot of that. So this is actually me voting for that particular thing, but you can actually start seeing, but people's identities are private, but it's actually their identity tied to a ledger that actually provides cryptographic proof that a certain thing happened. So other questions or thoughts or observations or feedback? Anything new in your worlds? I know everybody's on mute and it probably takes a while, but sometimes you come off mute. I don't know. Earlier today, I actually went to stop sharing my screen and I logged out of the call. But
hey, Michael. So to be an accredited investor, do you sign up through the link that you had up just before, or can you go through the digital world, and will it be linked to that Deal Flow Show website? It's
actually going to be within the app, and what you do, and that's a really good question. What you do is you actually, within the actual system itself, so think about it, you've got a decentralized identity, so you're using one of the life apps from any part of the world, whether it's American, Mexican, you know, text, there's different life apps. And then what you do is you actually log into your own bank accounts, you know, mutual fund accounts, whatever. And then you can basically see your own identity. You can see your own assets. You can see your own balances. And then that ties your physical stuff in with the actual app and wallet with your digital stuff as well. So it basically connects all those different sites and services around you as the individual, but it follows all the KYC and AML processes and even proves who the individual is, but then also proves that they have the ability to be an accredited investor. Their balances, their cash flow, all of that stuff is all built in. It's all dynamic. And they're really the only ones that can actually log in to actually do it. So does that make sense?
Yeah, so the accredited investor, is that the same type of principles as a D Corp?
No, a D Corp is basically a type of corporation in the digital world. Accredited investor follows what's known as the Jobs Act from the Security and Exchange Commission in America that says an individual has a net worth of certain value, let's say $1 million in net liquid assets, or a certain amount of income on an annual basis, which both of those can be proven based upon a login and verification process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. So what's the slight differentiation between signing up as a D Corp to participate in like a sustainable digital world compared to what you just explained?
So that's a really good question. And you know, it's brilliant that you're even asking it. So a D Corp and a D Corp that can do a Reg D offering, particularly what's called a Reg D 506C, it allows basically an individual that is accredited to participate in an investment that is public, like what this Deal Flow show provides. And that's basically it. So what it does is it allows a D Corp, for instance, each one of these companies here that wants to actually be on the show, they basically are D Corps. So they're a digital company with digital assets, and then people can basically come into those different digital assets. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're creating a show that helps people to understand how this works, not only for the different companies, but also for the people that are out there. And it's the first show of its kind because the technology is finally there. And really, it can follow the same legal process that, you know, in the digital world, the digital world has mirrored the legislation within the United States of America under the Jobs Act. So it basically follows that same structure, but it uses digital identities and following KYC and AML processes along the way. So it's really, and it's not just this, there'll be other environments that the digital world will basically enable to do those types of things. So good question.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And just one last question. Do we have an ecosystem for Samoa that's live, like the other ones for New Zealand and Mexico?
You know, it's funny that you asked that because earlier today, Samoa actually came up. They're one of the countries. So you can see here that Samoa is actually one of the countries. And they're sovereign. They have their own country, their own currency. They have their own mint, and they're a jurisdiction that is half American and half Samoan. And it just so happens, by the way, I'll actually go ahead and I'll actually announce this today. So one of the things that I actually posted a long time ago, and I got a green light this morning to basically approve it, was in the world that I'm in, well, this little guy right here just got back from serving down in Guatemala. His name is Hayden. For some of you may have known him over the years. And then another one is actually going. So his younger brother is actually going off. And I should have maybe, boy, was it that long ago? Heavens to Murgatroyd. Actually, was that it right there? I basically posted so that people could actually vote as to where he went. Let me see if I can find this. Oh, here we go. So I haven't actually looked at this, so let's go ahead and do this together. So people can basically vote where they think he has gone. And so these are all the different votes from around the world. So you can kind of see, you know, some people are voting this, what is this, Italy? He's actually got roots there. This is actually Australia. So down, one's Vanuatu. What's this other one? Are these both Vanuatu? Yeah. So those are both Vanuatu. California. This is one of his dear friends, Mexico. But he's ending up actually going. It's funny that you would ask this. He's actually going to go to Samoa. So, come on, Phil. So, anyways, that being said, yeah. So I'll go ahead and announce there. So, Other thoughts or questions or comments before we wrap up? Anything?
Yeah, Michael, on the exchange, can we purchase different, like digital crypto, like XRP or XLM or Solana or whatever? Can we purchase those on the decentralized exchange?
Yeah, so there'll actually be different assets that will be tied into it. Some of the ones that you mentioned will be available, and they'll also have trading pairs into other ones. So those are still to be announced. You can see the basic ones that are here. So Native, Digital USD, Digital BTC, DALA, and Clear are some of the basic ones. Then when you click this guy, you'll actually be able to see more. So there's a lot more that'll be coming in. And ultimately, there's going to be a real limited amount of trading pairs. And, you know, there's wonderful, capable, competent individuals that understand that world, and we're going to rely on to not only build up, you know, a solid environment where we're not being abused by the system, so to speak, because there's a lot of folks in these environments that will actually, they just try and play the markets. And really, a market is a fair market value that someone is willing to pay someone else. And that's why these order books are so valuable. Yeah. So will the assets be on there? Yes. You can kind of see them here, but you know, will there be other assets that can be swapped in or out and exchangeable for it? Yes. As a matter of fact, the XRP and XLM are really, you know, there'll be direct linkages to them because a lot of the technology will actually natively work together. So you'll see a lot of those things coming together. And we really love the environments and the ecosystems that they're from, but the use cases that they're rolling out are just a different type of animal. So good question though.
So how would I bring, so if I have some XRP and I want to swap them for something, how would I bring them into the digital exchange?
What you'll do is you'll actually transfer them to your wallet on your phone, and then they'll show up inside of the system. So
Okay.
everything that's on your phone will actually be on in the environment. So you can see this particular account only has, you know, 9 natives, so to speak. But
Okay.
yeah, you'll be able to pull those in. You'll also notice, you know, some of the currencies from these different environments are already all built in as well. So this is, you know, from American to Hawaiian to Mexican to Samoan, you know, they're all there. So good question,
Okay.
though. Really good question. And by the way, the Clear Pay wallet today will actually it will work with Bitcoin, it will work with Ethereum, and some of the core assets. I think actually XLM it will actually work with as well. But from an official support standpoint, I would wait until these systems get really stood up. I would say that these are stable environments, but this is new water for us. You know, our engineers and developers, these are new environments, and so we're making sure that they're solid and stable, because ultimately it actually runs based upon the individual's environment, and this is just providing a trading or exchanging or a market where the transfer can actually occur. So, make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Other comments or thoughts or anything else?
Sorry, just to confirm, Michael, did you say the Samoa ecosystem? Is that something that I can share the link to someone?
Samoan, you mean? Are you talking about Samoan stuff?
Yeah, the Samoa ecosystem, the link. Is that like a live link, or is it just like something that I can share with somebody?
Are you talking about this, or are you talking about this?
The entire ecosystem. Yeah.
No, it's really still their environment is not as built out as some of the other ones. Like literally,
Oh, okay.
the most advanced one right now is the Kingdom of Hawaii. Aotearoa, which is New Zealand, which I know you live in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but you've got connections. So basically, you know, Aotearoa is another one. Yeah, so you can kind of see these are some of the ones.
So
that are
the
some of
best,
first
so if I was to do some road shows, the best thing to do would just be use the Hawaii ecosystem as an example.
Yeah, that would be the ideal one. Yep, the wallets and everything are all
Okay.
integrated there, exactly. So
Okay,
Yep.
awesome.
Good question. Good question. Well, we'll go ahead and sign off. We're going to play a song that's, I think it doesn't necessarily relate to this, but this is the DJ, the guy that was there, and I don't know, it's 30 million views or something crazy. But appreciate your attendance, and for those listening online, we'll see you next week. We're excited about some of the things that are transpiring, multiple different environments. We're actually going to head down to the Bitcoin event, which is actually starting today. And, there's some wonderful people that are finally starting to get involved. And we look forward to reporting back to you some of the results that come from that environment. So these are just figureheads, but, we look forward to reporting that. So thanks again. And I'm going to leave you with this. It's probably not even appropriate, but I really, this guy was so amazing. So 31.8 million subscribers. And then this thing has tons of almost 5 million views on this particular one, but hopefully you can hear it. If not, yak at me. If so, or if not, just check it out online. Talk to you later.
No.